This video started out being a tribute to the beautiful mountains and wildlife in Lake Arrowhead, California, where my husband's family cabin is, that we stay a lot. But then in the last couple of days, as I was putting this video together, this fire started and it has spread all through the area. We're not sure if we're going to be able to get back up there. We've got to try to get up there and get our boat out of the water. But anyway, hopefully this isn't all going to burn down. We were just there a few weeks ago to hang out, and I was using these clips to make this video. So I'm hoping that the outcome is good for all concerned. So initially, I wanted to just do a painting demonstration showing my process. So I'm starting here, just wetting the canvas and just dropping in some acrylic paints, do a thin wash with some kind of a bright sunshiny color in the background. Most of this will probably get covered up, but I wanted to just kind of tone the canvas down from the white and give it this nice sunshiny background. So when I go to put in the forest part, most of this will probably get covered up, but it does help me give some light behind it, so some of it might peek through. And I want to create an abstract background. I didn't want like a realistic forest, because the figures are going to be pretty realistic, the animals that I'm putting in the front. So I'm just experimenting with this to see if I like the style. I'm painting the sides, trying to get used to doing that in the acrylic stage so that my sides are done, and then I can always touch them up later if I need to. So then I decided to take some flow acrylics and just throw those on there to create some drips, so that I'm squirting it and creating drips. So just really playing here. I don't tend to do much in the way of abstract, so I'm trying to learn to be more free and more abstract, especially in the background stage or the underpainting. So yeah, and as I was doing this, I thought, oh, why didn't I just leave them drips? But I knew it was going to get covered up. So here again, I'm just kind of playing around, getting some texture in there, having some brush strokes that could show through if I want them to later on. So at this stage, it really doesn't matter what I do. There's nothing I can really do wrong, because with acrylic paint, I can always just let it dry and then go over it with something else. And I wanted the primary color in this background to be just different shades of green with little hints of orange. So the acrylic is I think there's probably, I want to say, maybe some phthalo green in there, some sap green, and it didn't really matter to me what green I was using at this stage, because I knew that I was going to be covering a lot of it up with oil later. And at the time I thought I wanted to have some blue sky up there, but again, that's going to end up going away. So you see that I'm just turning the canvas and giving it some drips by just squirting water and letting that paint run off. And again, I liked the drips. I don't know why I went and messed with them. I need to learn how to leave well enough alone. So I'm just trying to, again, get some texture and shapes in there. But so yeah, I was inspired to do some more forest animals and landscape when we went up to the lake this last time in August. it just, I don't know, it's just a very inspirational place. I always come home wanting to try to give the feeling of what I feel in my painting when I'm up there. So I just want to share few little clips here of our travel up. It's about I want to say close to 80 miles maybe. I'm not real sure, 80, 90 miles maybe, to get from where I live in the desert up to the cabin. So it's not that far. It's not a real long drive. And it's just a beautiful, beautiful forest, beautiful mountain. Lake Arrowhead, or the Arrowhead Mountain, that whole area, it's just enchanting until fires come through and burn it. And this is walking to the front of the cabin. Now, this cabin has been in my husband's family since 1932. I think he said it was built in 1925, I want to say. So it's been there almost 100 years old. It's been in the family nearly 100 years. And so it's precious, very precious thing to have and be able to experience. And we're trying to take care of it and bring it up to its former glory if we can, a little bit at a time. And we have a dock there, so we brought our boat up. That's my husband and my son. And take you on a quick little ride. And then there's an interesting thing. You'll come up to this tower that you'll see when we go around the tower that's in the lake. It's actually an outlet water tower. It's 190 feet high. There's a white line around it at about 125 feet. But it's a concrete water tower that was initially built in 1908 and used to release water. It was kind of a reservoir there for a while with all of the runoff and the snow melt. And it was used to water crops down below in San Bernardino, below the mountains. So then they filled up the lake, and now it's just part of the lake. All right, so here I'm just continuing to work on the underpainting, and I'm starting to kind of take some more neutral, grayed out tones, trying to mix some, to kind of tap down some of the bright color, because I felt like it was going to really, really distract from the subjects that'll be up front. And so you'll see slowly I start adding a lot of gray and neutral colors, kind of pushing it down a little bit so that it's not too vibrant in the back. And then when I start the oil layer, there'll be a lot of cooler colors in the back so that it really pushes it back even further. But you can see there where I took some white, not white, but I made like a creamy mixture and sort of a beigeish, buttery mixture, just to kind of push things back. And then later I add a little bit more in to bring the texture back a little bit. And then when I start the oil, it again gets too bright. So at the end of this, I'm not sure if the final product that you'll see is going to actually be the same as far as the background. I mean, it'll be the same, but I think what I'll probably end up doing is adding a little more neutrals into the background, because I feel like I have too many deep greens and blues. And even though they're cool and they are shoved into the back, I think they're a little distracting. That's just my view. I probably need to just do a little more blurring of the edges, because I really liked this background better than what I ended up with. So now I got to try to see if I can somehow take it back. You'll see what I mean when I get to the end, though. So then the next phase after this was to go in and try and add what looked like trees, what looked like branches, just so that you could kind of see a little more. But then I started sketching out the subjects, and I just pretty much freehanded them. I took a white charcoal pencil, and I just kind of marked out the main spots and outlined little bits of the body just so I could see where I was going with it. And then I'm just using acrylic, I think it's probably burnt sienna, acrylic burnt sienna, just marking in the outline of the figure. And throughout this process, I like doing my paintings this way because I know that then I can go in and I can make corrections. So if the figures are out of proportion or I've made a mistake somewhere, I can easily fix it before I get to, filling it in or blocking it in the values and stuff. I always try to make my corrections. And I always end up with some proportion out of whack. Even when I draw it out with the charcoal pencil first, still when I get to this stage, a lot of times I'm just a little too loose. And so I tend to end up with my proportions being out of whack. And also, of course, when I go to draw it, a lot of times I've probably drawn, not measured properly. I do like using a measuring tool to measure. I haven't tried using, I have a projector, but I haven't tried using projection. I might try that at some point when I want to paint a lot of paintings, and I don't want to take the time to sketch them out. Plus, like I said, I just tend to either mismeasure or I overdo something or underdo something, and so it ends up with their legs too short, this or that. So I need to practice that a little bit more. But you can see I'm here, and there's the stag. And then the other deer is supposed to be his mate, a doe. I feel like I made her a little too small. She's supposed to be in the background, but it makes her look like she's small. So it almost looks like a stag with his baby instead of his partner. But I think later on, when I add the oil, I think I fix that. She looks a little bit more like an adult deer versus a baby. So you'll see when I get to that point. But I really like having the background already there and then painting on top of it. And what I do is I just build up a couple layers of acrylic. I don't like to do too thick because I don't want to take the chance on it cracking under the oil, but I do a couple layers of the acrylic just to lift it away from the background. And then when I go in with the oils, of course, it pushes the background further back with the cool oil colors. So here I'm just working on putting in the different values and building up the layers of those values. And again, this is just burnt sienna, and then I add in a little bit of, I take a little bit of white and I mix it with a tiny bit of yellow, and then I mix that with the burnt sienna. And when I say yellow, it's either, sometimes it'll be cadmium yellow, but a lot of times I use like Indian yellow or sometimes even yellow ochre. And I just create different values using those colors. I'll add a little bit of white, but I try not to get to white too early because I like to use the white to brighten up the highlights, and the final details. So if I use the white too early, then everything just starts looking chalky and blended in. Even though this is an underpainting and the oil's going to come in later, the more accurate I can get this part, then the better it comes out in the end. So, and then with the darker shadows, I'm just using straight burnt sienna. If I need something really dark, then I'll probably use like a raw umber, burnt umber with the burnt sienna to deepen it a little bit. And again, we're talking acrylics right now. So I tend to only use black in certain paintings or for certain details, I don't like to use black too often, especially because you got to choose the right black. Some blacks lean toward make things look a little green, some a little blue. It's like you really have to know which black you're using, and I guess right now I don't have the patience to figure that out, to be honest. But when I know I'm going to use black to mix some kind of a darker color, I use very, very, very tiny bit. Generally, especially with oils, when I get to oil paint for this one, I'll use a lot of Van Dyke Brown. So I use Van Dyke Brown and raw umber for, depending on if it's in the front or in the back and so on and so forth, what I'm mixing it with. So there you can see that I started putting in more opaque layers of acrylic. So I've built up the layer to where it's a little more opaque. And I like doing this, as I said, because then I can really get those proportions where I want them. And that's before I start working with oil. And it's the ears are not right. And so I fix those later because they're way too thick at their stems where they meet the skull. And I have to go in and tweak them. So you'll see me work on that. But it's slowly coming together, slowly starting to look like something. And these are mule deer, and these mule deer are prevalent in the San Bernardino Mountains and in and around Lake Arrowhead. People have these deer just walking right through their yard. And of course, when you're driving up there, you're always on the lookout, because I had a friend who was driving home from work. He had his truck open. Well, it was my husband's friend. His truck windows were open, and he's just driving, and all of a sudden a deer comes running out of the forest, and it leaped, and it just happened to leap just at the right time and went right in his window. And it was a nightmare. I don't remember the outcome. I think that the deer was okay. I think he was pretty beat up. You can only imagine what that deer did to him in the truck trying to get out. But yeah, they're all over the place up there, and they help really keep the pests away and just different things. So they really do an important job in the mountains up there. All right, I'm finishing up this underpainting, and then I'll be switching to oil pretty soon here. And then everything starts to change quite a bit once I start with the oil. And the oil I'm going to use is a lot of phthalo blue, phthalo green, and then Viridian green. And then, of course, I'm using like a lemon yellow, a cool yellow, and a cool orange. And then Van Dyke or raw umber for some of the dark. But you can see what I'm talking about when I started putting in the oil in the back. It's fine, and it pushes back, and it's fairly abstract, but I almost feel like it's too distracting. So I'm gonna give it some thought. I'm not gonna do much to it. I'm gonna let it dry a little bit, and then make up my mind about what I want to do to make it a little less distracting. So maybe you have some suggestions for me. If you do, please leave them in the comments. Let me know what you think I might be able to do. Should I give it a little more atmosphere and put in some more neutrals, make it look a little misty? Should I blur it out a little more, or should I just leave it like it is? Let me know what you think in the comments, because I do appreciate your feedback. And I know there are a lot of really talented artists out there. I don't know that they're looking at my channel, but some of you, I've gone and looked at yours, that some of you that have commented, and I can tell that you know what you're doing, and you're definitely an artist. And I would value your feedback. So don't hesitate to let me know what you think would be best to do with this one. And I'm really hoping that we're going to be able to get back up there in a couple weeks. I don't know. I know the fire didn't get up to where our cabin is. It is, though, coming back toward the area I grew up in. I grew up in a little town called Yucaipa, and Yucaipa is at the foothills of these mountains. And it has actually, they've closed all the mountain roads. Any direction that you want to take to try to get up there, they've closed the roads. And the smoke is so overwhelming, they've had to close down several school districts all along the entire mountain range. They've shut down businesses. It's really a bad deal. So I'm hopeful that they'll get this fire out quickly. It's already burned well over 20,000 acres of brush and forest, and no structures so far. Thank goodness. The California firefighters are just incredible. They are so well trained, so good at what they do. And we have an air support with the old Norton Air Force Base. There's an air support there, and I think there's one out here in Riverside near me too. So for those of you unfamiliar with the area, just know that this is a huge mountain range. And California, as you know, has problems with drought, with burning a lot. And then in the midst of this, we had earthquakes, several earthquakes, and tornado warnings, because there was a thunderstorm brewing at the same time this was all going on. So it's been quite a wild ride. Out here in the desert, we don't get a lot of that weather. We feel the earthquakes, but they aren't, for some reason, it's not as impactful. So we're good where we are. I'm safe, but I'm concerned about because my mother, my sister, one of my daughters, a lot of our relatives live in the area that this is happening, and a lot of my husband's relatives. In fact, my husband's brother lives up in Lake Arrowhead, and for a while we thought it was going to head up that direction toward him and toward the cabin, but it turned and it's coming back down our way, and that's why it's so scary right now, because it's headed for structures. But hopefully they'll be able to get a handle on it, and I'll be able to get back up there. But in the meantime, thanks for joining me on this painting adventure and on my trip up to the mountains. And give me your thoughts. Give me your thoughts and your comments down below. And if you haven't subscribed yet, please do so. I am very close to hitting 500 subscribers. I would love to hit that 500 number. That would be so awesome. And I appreciate all of you who come and watch my videos and who comment. I really enjoy the interaction with you. And I do read every single one. So far, I'm small enough, my channel is small enough that it's easy to do that. I don't know what'll happen if it gets bigger, but the comments are really, really fun and helpful, and I hope that you're enjoying the content. Anything you'd like to see me do on this channel, I would greatly appreciate your feedback. And any questions you have about what I'm doing, why I'm doing it, why I'm using certain things, or if you want to ask me what I use, I can do some more videos about that. So I am getting to the end of this one. But if you want to look up any of the information on the things I'm talking about, it's just Lake Arrowhead, California, San Bernardino Mountain Range. And the fire that's burning right now is the line fire, which started in Highland, California, which is just east of San Bernardino. So there they are, the little deer couple, caught in a moment, and hopefully not caught in the fire. Hopefully all of the little deers found a place to get away from the fire. But thank you. Thank you very much for joining me. And that's it for now. I hope to have you join me on the next one. We'll have one coming up very soon. So have a wonderful rest of your day. And I will catch you on the next one. Bye-bye.